आपको
आपको
नमस्ते विश जी।
नमस्ते जी।
नमस्कार जी, नमस्कार।
बहुत देखिए, अच्छा ठीक है।
So we are live right now and recording is going on. It's
Okay.
eight. I think we can start. So thank you everyone for joining. I know it's been long overdue. We met, and fortunately we are meeting today on the forum of FISI, and it's a wonderful topic, and it has changed the world politics dynamics maybe to some extent. So I would request Dr. Adityanji to start the discussion, and we'll take it from there.
Let me say a few words.
Sure.
Adityanji has been one of the best I have seen around in this country, all over the world. And I thought he was a good doctor. Of course, he's a good doctor anyway, but he has been a great scholar too. And yesterday I talked to him, day before yesterday, and I asked him this question. And he said he has been very busy reading things. And I said, I hope his, I didn't say that to him, but I hope his patients are not suffering. But that's great. He's our senior officer in FISI, and he's a secretary, one of the general secretaries, and therefore we are very proud of him. And we are here.
Hoping that maybe it's
Why people are talking too much?
What's
What's going on?
somebody. No, this is not from my side.
Their sound is coming from everywhere. Now it's all right. Dr. Adityanji, please go ahead now. We have Suresh Raji also there.
नमस्ते सर सब लोगों को.
Namaskar ji.
Namaste, sir.
Okay, so I was asked the day before yesterday to moderate this discussion, and I'm happy to moderate the discussion. Vivek ji asked me to give a topic, so I gave the title. Before I open it for discussion, I will give a brief introduction. In all our programs, whenever I moderate, I always give a brief introduction just to introduce the topic. So let me share my screen. Just a minute. No, it's not the right one. Okay. Can people see my screen?
Yeah, there are a lot of things going on.
No.
Om, Dharma.
No, that's the wrong one. So let me stop and share the screen number 1. 40 seconds. Somehow I'm not able to share my screen, the PowerPoint. I wanted to do that, but I will do without the PowerPoint.
Adityanji, you open the PowerPoint first and then share it.
Okay.
So
Let me see if I can share it now. Can you see my PowerPoint now?
no, you Do you see it on your computer?
I do see it on my computer.
Then on the share point, just share that part,
Okay.
not the screen.
Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Can you see now?
Yeah.
Now we see you.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, very good. So the title of today's discussion is Rise of a Hindu Leader, Rishi Sunak as a mascot. And sometimes people take the word mascot as somewhat in a negative sense, but I think we have to take it in a positive sense. What he represents and what he portrays to us. So we'll have a moderated discussion on this particular topic today. So you see Rishi Sunak now outside 10 Downing Street. And you see Rishi Sunak now with his wife, very famous wife, and probably she has a lot to do. It's more of a partnership. So you have Rishi Sunak as the Prime Minister of UK, but I think this partnership has gone on for a number of years. That has been very, very important. And you might have seen these pictures, Rishi Sunak and his wife worshipping a cow. There's a reason I put this picture. In the first prime ministerial contest after Boris Johnson resigned, Rishi Sunak lost the leadership contest for Conservative Party. And there were a number of naysayers, especially from India, especially from left and liberal section of the intellectual society, who said that a cow worshipper was trying to become Prime Minister of UK, and UK is not UP. Cow worshipping is not going to make you Prime Minister. And again, Rishi Sunak and his wife worshipping a cow. And I'm putting these pictures for a reason. So from cow worshipping to he becomes the Prime Minister, and I put a slogan here. Before starting this, we were talking about what's happening here. This is a very famous slogan. Everyone realizes when this was given. It is the economy is stupid. This was the election slogan for William Jefferson Clinton in 1992. So how do we reconcile cow worshipping with the economy? I'll take a very, very provocative step. In India, before JNU started, there used to be another darling of the leftist intellectual school. It is still there. It's called D School. D School stands for Delhi School of Economics. And it generated a battalion of leftist socialist economists. And one of those economists was Professor Raj Krishna. Professor Raj Krishna gave a very derisive expression that was used by IMF, by the World Bank, and India bashing naysayers of the West. And that expression was this: the Hindu rate of growth. And the bar diagram you have is showing 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, the annual growth rate. So in 1950s, South Korea, Pakistan, India, and Sri Lanka had similar rates of growth. Sri Lanka had the highest. But by the time we come in 1995, India's growth rate is still very low, less than 5%. And South Korea's growth rate is actually 42.5%. So in the decades from 1950s to mid 1995s, when liberalization came to India, everyone talked about very pejoratively the Hindu rate of growth. And there were cartoons like this. Well, it's not about us. We are still faster than the Hindu rate of growth. The picture has changed now, the story has changed, the narrative has changed. And this is the famous Washington Post. That's its motto, democracy dies in darkness. 3 days ago, there was an article in Washington Post. Rishi Sunak shows the growing influence of Indian talent in West. Analysis by Tyler Cowen, who is a Bloomberg columnist and professor of economics at George Mason University. And Tyler Cowen starts his article by saying, with Rishi Sunak as Prime Minister of the UK, it is now impossible to deny what has been evident for some while. Indian talent is revolutionizing the Western world for more than had been expected 10 or 15 years ago. And again, going to pre-moderated discussion of an informal discussion, we were talking about what's happening in this country. Professor Agrawal was saying that it might take some time in this country. The second paragraph, Tyler Cowen writes, you might think UK leadership is an exception, but consider the US. It is entirely possible that there will be a presidential election in 2024 or 2028 between Kamala Harris, who is of Indian origin, and Nikki Haley, who is of Indian origin. Few people consider that the most likely matchup, but it is very much within the realm of possibility. So I go back to a Sanskrit shloka, Swagrahe pujyate murkhaha, Swagrame pujyate prabhuhu, Swadeshe pujyate raja, Vidwan sarvatra pujyate. Meaning thereby, a fool is worshipped in his own house, in its own home, in one's own village. The lord of the village, the chief of the village is worshipped. In one's country, the country's king is worshipped. But a talented man, a learned man is worshipped everywhere. And that is the Hindu ethos. So, rise of Rishi Sunak as a Hindu leader is not just a, mascot. It's a harbinger of what is going to come. You see all the multinationals, all of them have CEOs of Indian origin. Why? Because they are disciplined managers. They have talent, they are willing to work hard, they have cultural, ethical ethos that bring them on the top. And that process is not going to just be confined to multinational companies. It is going to be extended to countries. In this day, economy is the stupid. Whoever can steward the economy in the right direction will be the leader of the company, of the country. Economy decides, not jingoism, who wins the elections. Economy decided that Rishi Sunak became the prime minister after having been defeated just 5 weeks ago. Economy decided that Liz Truss was forced to resign So it is the economy is stupid. And under these circumstances, Indian talent, and may I say, Hindu talent is very much more suited to lead the countries. So it is an interesting statistics, just for fun, unabashed, fully practicing, saffron donning, temple going, tika wearing, cow worshipping Hindus are now heads of government in 4 different countries. And if you start counting people of Indian origin, not necessarily Hindus, that figure becomes larger. So, anybody knows who's this person?
Mauritius?
Yes, this is Praveen Jugannath, the Prime Minister of Mauritius. I just put it, to sort of give a background to what is happening with UK, and what is happening in UK is nothing unusual. It has been happening in multinational corporations for the last 15, 20 years, that Indian origin CEOs, because they are talented, there is something in the upbringing, something in the ethos, something in the value system, which is bringing very disciplined leaders to the top, despite the color of the skin. And my prediction is that it is not just Rishi Sunak, it's not just one country. Wherever Indians are, wherever people are of Indian background, and especially Hindu origin, you will see them in leadership position, come what may. Nobody is going to be able to stop this phenomenon. And it is just the beginning. So Rishi may be a mascot, but he's setting the trend. He's going to give us the direction where the entire world is going. And with that introduction, I am going to open this discussion. So since we are a very small gathering, maybe people can take turns and give their comments, and I can interject in between. So let's have people raise hands, whoever wants to make any comments on this particular topic. Who will take the first stab? Sureshji, you want to speak? Actually, you need to unmute yourself, sir.
No, I'm happy for him, but he's in a country that traditionally known opposing Hindu culture. So I'm afraid that he has other pressures, and he may not basically come to our expectations that we have, or even any bit closer. I mean, right now, look at one typical example. His external minister is still from the person from Goan origin, and who rubbed India in a very wrong way. So that is my expectation, that he has still kept the person, and that is the lady who was very close to defeating the free economic relationship between India and UK. And she is still in the helms. So I doubt that even if he wants, he will be able to do anything, because he will be bothering to most people, especially our external minister Jaishankar, although he is very smart.
Sureshji, you have raised your comments. I will address them. You're talking about Suella Braverman, who was the Home Secretary previously and is again back in the power structure. So one thing we need to realize is that Rishi Sunak becoming Prime Minister of UK does not mean that UK becomes colony of India. Let's be very realistic. Rishi Sunak is of Indian origin, but he was born in UK. He actually has grandparents who migrated from British India to African countries from either side of the family. It is historical. It is epoch-making phenomenon that for the first time, a non-white person, a Hindu, has become Prime Minister of UK. And that in itself is a phenomenon of significance. Mind you, Liz Truss lasted only 42 days despite her color of the skin, the faith, and everything. Boris Johnson did not last very long either. And that is part of the UK's political cycle. So rather than having tall expectations that Rishi Sunak will Hinduize or Indianize UK, I think that is a little too rich. I think we need to understand and celebrate the fact that history has been made. In UK's entire history, this is the first brown-skinned person of Indian origin. In fact, it's just like karma turning on UK. You know, a person of Indian origin has become the Prime Minister. I think Damleji wants to say something. Damleji, kindly unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself, Damleji.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
sure.
Okay. It is look like rather than popular Hindi filmy song Begani Shadi Mein Abdullah Diwana. So we should be careful about this is a power struggle in the between the Labour Party and Conservative Tory Party, number one. Number two, while you describe about the Delhi School of Economics and most of the Indians, those who are brought up from pre-independent till 2014, they brought up with the aura of leftist ideology emerged from London School of Economy, Professor Lasky. And there is some impact, and there was some reason also. But in 1990, the failure of socialism in all over the world, I'm talking socialism, in the UK and all of the experiment. So rather than giving importance to these leftists, until they are alive, they are going to carry their parroting same school of thought, number one. Two. Number three, this power struggle in UK, we have to keep in mind. So we have to be watched with even the Shunukji. We had to watch, wait and watch attitude should be there, because his grandparents migrated from Africa, and his father was doctor and mother was pharmacist and all of the thing. So as an ambition, he may change, as you've seen about our Dr. Vishmaji's friend's son, who was the governor of Louisiana, how the people change. So that is a keeping. So rather than putting our all eggs in one basket, I think our attitude should be wait and watch. Number one, analyze his result of the administration, and to whomsoever he taking in the administration, he has to do under the compulsion, some compulsion. And so describing him is a first non-white Hindu origin. He's, of course, in personal life, he may be, because of ISKCON follower, he has an issue. But along with about his wife, parents, especially his the mother-in-law, she is very close to us. She was good supporter of Seva Bharati. She brought up from Maharashtra, her father and all attitude closer to. So keep in mind, so we should best description, know your opponent better than his wife or his mistress. Thank you.
Well, understood. But again, the facts don't change. History has been made. He is going to do what, as a British citizen, is good for Britain or UK. He is not going to do what is good for India or for, Indian diaspora. Ultimately, he is the elected Prime Minister of UK. But important thing is that this elected Prime Minister of UK is not shy of saying that he's a practicing Hindu.
Yeah.
And that is where the history is being made. Vivekji wants to speak. He raised his hand. So I'm going to give the platform to Vivekji.
So, thank you, Aditya. I think there are two things here, and we are not only this group, most of us, when we are talking about Rishi Sunak, we are just crossing these two objectives. What Rishi Sunak will do for Britain or UK, that's a different, altogether different perspective. What his compulsions are or not, or his intentions are, or his prejudice or bias, those are all different discussion. His first and foremost important thing, he needs to work with all European countries to deal with France, to deal with Egypt, or all other countries, so that the impact of Brexit, what is on the Britain, he has to foremost deal with those, especially right now with this gas pipeline and all those Ukraine crisis. So what he will do with Britain, that's a different discussion, and you can have another topic. I think what we are, as you rightly said, him becoming a prime minister of Britain has definitely is going to encourage a lot of Indians worldwide that yes, this is possible. Whether he will help India or not, that's a totally different discussion. Just because you are Hindu, not all the Hindu leaders are good in India. So to say that a Hindu leader outside India will be good or bad for India is just a different discussion.
I'm not consider. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
I would actually, being the moderator, I will, moderate the discussion. Vivekji has made very good points. There are bad apples everywhere. But again, I am raising this issue about his Hinduness, his Hindu profile, because so far we were told that to survive in public life, you have to tone down your religion. Okay. In US, especially US, the successful politicians of Indic origin who came to limelight, actually both of them changed their religion. I don't want to name the names, everyone knows, I refer to one of them. So this is a hope that, you don't have to give up your identity to come to the leadership position, to come to the top. It is a myth buster that you have to embrace Christianity or some other religion in order to be successful in politics. And that is where Rishi Sunak makes an impact. And not only he will be a mascot, but he'll be a role model for young upcoming politicians, wherever they are, not necessarily in UK, not necessarily in US, but there are other countries where there are, Hindu diaspora who aspire to come to public life, and it will be an inspiration for them. Also, again, the politics is always local. Politics of UK will be politics of UK, politics of US would be politics of US, and politics of any other country, whether that is South Africa or Seychelles or Madagascar or Australia or New Zealand, would be pertaining to that country. So you cannot actually expect these politicians of Indic origin to behave in a certain manner towards India or Indian aspirations or something like that. I think it is good enough that he has said that, yes, I am British, but I will take my oath on a copy of Gita. I will light a diya in front of 10 Downing Street or 11 Downing Street to celebrate my festival. And I think openly saying that required some guts, where before 2014, people were very shy of acknowledging their religion in public life, especially the leaders. So there are two people who are raising hands, and I will give chance initially to Damleji and then to Sureshji.
Yeah. Again, we had to make the distinction where the Indian migrant, where the large number, like a Mauritius, Fiji Island, Guyana, Suriname, so or Caribbean country, leader emerged from there. Like you say, he took the oath on Gita. I cannot pinpoint right now, but if anybody can, I will appreciate. The other president or prime minister of Caribbean country took the oath in Sanskrit.
Yes.
Number one. Number two, along with like Rishi, interesting thing, along with Rishi, there is another gentleman, Indian origin gentleman, Prime Minister of Ireland.
Okay.
So many people. So there are two distinctions where the Indians migrants are in the large number. Second is where Indian origin people come up with their own merits as a leadership merits. So we should keep this thing as a distinction, and individual perform religious identity. Like Jagan of Kenya in 50s, he was a leftist, but he was a pro-Hindu leftist.
Okay.
So point is that we have to be careful about putting all the color, different shades of color, keep in mind. Thank you.
Damleji, I will bring some information here. The person you are referring to in Ireland was Leo Varadkar. Leo Varadkar was a son of a Hindu doctor, Indian doctor, and an Irish mother. Leo Varadkar is no longer the prime minister. He was prime minister from June 2017 to 2020. After that, Michael Martin became Irish prime minister. Leo Varadkar actually did not celebrate his Hinduness. He celebrated his openly gay status. So his politics was slightly different, agenda was different, but again, being of Indian origin, being of Indic origin, to be able to become in a staunch Catholic country, prime minister of the country was in itself an achievement. Some people did notice that. The other person actually you mentioned was not in Kenya. I think we were talking about Guyana.
This is Gaurav.
Guyana, Cheda Jagan.
Guyana, Chedi Jagan. Chedi Jagan became the prime minister / president in Guyana. I think that was in 60s. Chedi Jagan was himself socialist, became prime minister because of machinations of intelligence agency of a very powerful North American country. Actually, his elevation led to subjugation and suppression of the Indo-Caribbeans in that particular country. So yes, we have to be cautious, but again, I am very, very positive and hopeful that this young man coming on the basis of merit. The only reason he has been selected is so that he can actually rescue the sinking economy of UK, which was actually crashing down. And I tried to say that, it's the Indic talent. The guy has an MBA from Stanford. In the first contest against Liz Truss, when he mentioned 3 times that, he's learned something from Stanford, people were, ridiculing him that you have already lost when you have to take the name of Stanford. But after 2 days, they realized that he was right. Whatever he was saying, he had predicted that the economy will tank if unsupported tax cuts are implemented, unfunded tax cuts are implemented. So he has been selected not so much for his Hinduness, but because of his technical expertise. And if we see the entire thread from multinationals to head of governments, if you have talent, you will become the leader. And that's a very positive message. Sureshji, your turn.
Adityanji, what you have just said or what you have been telling all along, I fully agree with all those things. But I see there are 3 issues. One, him being Hindu. Second, national interest, Indian interest versus UK interest, and third, the existing system, which in both countries is socialistic. So that existing system is not going to go in the direction where the world is going, and the world is going in the conservative era. For example, Italy has chosen a prime minister, but some may argue that what has happened to Brazil, the guy who was most conservative has been thrown out. But I'm not going that far. I'm just looking from the Indian perspective and the UK perspective. Both countries have their own interest. UK has more economic interest because of its decision to get out of, because of Brexit. They have more interest in economic tie-up, which was with India, which was going really great. And it was on the verge of signature between the two countries. And suddenly the things, Boris has to resign because of his own, party problem, his own personal problem, Bill Clinton-like personal problem. So once he resigned, the person who came in power, instead of moving in that direction, we all know, didn't deal with the economy in the right perspective. And that's where Sunak is back again. So I'm not counting on his Hinduness and Hinduness of India. I'm looking at the economic perspective, and the one that is going everything not to happen in the right perspective is the system in both the countries.
I
So
think
I see
you are
that.
right. System may be parliamentary system in both the countries.
No,
But let me finish. Let me finish. He is the leader of the Tory party. Let's not forget that. That's the Conservative Party of UK that has been in power now for 12 continuous years. You know, he's facing a lot of challenges. He'll have to do what is good for his country. Forget about India. He has been elected Prime Minister of UK to rescue the tanking economy of the UK. But I think he still gives a very powerful inspiration to people of Hindu faith all over the world, that your technical expertise, your merit counts. You will not be discriminated just because you are Hindus, because that used to be the norm. And that's the point we are trying to say. It's not about India's interest. He's not going to, support India's interest. That's not his job. He's the Prime Minister of UK. So I think those are somewhat fancy notions that, it'll be good for India-US relationship. We are certainly not talking about that. We are talking about a totally different point of view, but we need to move on from this to other people because there are a lot of other people who are interested. Do I see any raised hands?
So, just to sum up before you go, so I will like to see him, how he acts in G20 meeting in the coming months. And
Sureshji, he will do what is good for UK. Let's not go by.
No,
again,
I'm not.
Let's
I'm
not put
talking about
benchmarks on
UK.
him, and let's not, reserve our adulation that only if he works in certain direction we will celebrate him. We are celebrating a universal fact, a historical fact that a person of Hindu faith, a person of Indic origin, a brown-skinned person for the first time in the entire history of UK has become its prime minister. And that is something we all should not forget.
I think
Madan Lalji, Professor Madan Lal wants to come in.
Yeah, Adityan ji, what you are saying is very, very appropriate. We need to be very proud of the fact that Rishi Sunak is the Prime Minister of Great Britain and that he's avowedly, openly a Hindu. He does not hide his religion in any perspective whatsoever. Churchill, Winston Churchill, who was the Prime Minister of Great Britain during the war, had very negative opinions about India, especially about Hindus. And I kind of think he must be turning in his grave to see that 65 years after Churchill passed away in 1965, that a Hindu is the Prime Minister of Great Britain. Now, as it has been clearly indicated, he's the Prime Minister of Great Britain, not of India. But nonetheless, we still can be very proud that he is openly acknowledging the fact that he's a Hindu. And also, if you see his right hand wrist, when he raises his hand, he has the red thread around it, openly, So openly, he's acknowledging the fact that he comes from that particular tradition. And I think we all need to be very proud of the fact. And I think India's and Hindu stature globally has risen on account of rishis being the prime minister. Now, point number two, as it has been said, Nitin, by you and several of the other people, that Indians at the top in business economy are doing very well, like the head of Google, head of Microsoft, many other corporations, also Hindus, or an Indian, and we need to be proud of that. We certainly need to be very proud of. However, there's a correction here. At the public level, at the general level, Indians are not very active politically. We don't contribute either in terms of money to various candidates or in terms of time. So while we can celebrate the status of Rishi Sunak and many of the CEOs, but at the public level, general public level, Hindus don't have the weight that they need to have, because we are the richest community, as it is repeated time and again in the United States and perhaps in Britain as well. But we don't have the political weight. If you look at the articles in New York Times and Washington, or what comes out of Harvard University, it generally tends to be anti-India and not very pro-Hindu either. And, Rajiv Malhotra has written this very powerful, interesting book, and all of you, I'm sure, are familiar with that. And he makes that point that, yes, we need to be very, very proud of the leaders that Hindu community has produced, Rishi Sunak on the top, but at the same time also recognize that at the public level, general level, we don't have a very heavy weight. They're not very active.
Thank you, Professor Madan Goyal. So eloquently put all the points, and I agree with all of them. But here a glass ceiling has been busted. Dr. Purohit wants to come in. Dr. Purohit, please take the platform.
Can I say something now?
Yes, yes.
I think what we are discussing is a great discussion. One thing I can say that he has proved himself. He proved in the school, he proved in the college, and he proved in that that he can do something to the country. UK is at this time is in trouble. They need an economic leader. The 2 or 3 people before him has failed. So he was the person that started when the COVID was there. In the COVID time, the UK was in really bad trouble. And also some of the stock markets and all these were tumbling that time. So he was a person who came out and he said, well, let us throw $400 billion in the economy, give the people who are in the industries, and so they can keep their jobs also to the department. So that was very successful and people were very happy with him that time. And second thing, then what happened that he's the person who has did one thing, that give the food to the restaurant. And he put the program, eat out and help out. And that was very successful. So he became very popular that time. And before that, he was not elected. He was short of some votes before he became the prime minister. Other people went through this one and they were not very successful. They could not do well. So he is now, it is on his shoulder. that look, he's an economic person. Let us see whether he can bring the UK out of it. And I think should be very proud of it. He knows who he is, because he is not scared to say that I'm Hindu. He's not scared to say that what is my religion is. That required a lot of guts in that any country. And one thing I can tell you that if you believe what you are, that is what people want to see that too. You cannot be a pseudo Christian. You cannot be a pseudo this thing. You are Hindu. You are Hindu. You are proud of that one, and you stay on the top of that. Anywhere doesn't make any difference where you go. Whether in my community, like we are here, and I'm known as a Hindu, I'm known as a doctor, but my job is to give a good service to my patients. And then they realize that, look, Hindu doctor, Indian doctor is a good doctor, he's a good surgeon, let's go to him. I think that will be always there. And I think he's a brilliant guy. He's going to bring, and now already the French president is already talking to him. He's already reaching Europe. And of course that India, he will be always a soft corner for India, but it is the British Prime Minister. And he will always have a soft corner for India, but he has to balance it. And he has to be successful himself for the Britain. He has to get the Britain out of the trouble, and then he can do a lot of things. And then other people will be joining him, and his own party people will be joining him and keep him on the top. So I think that is where my thinking is, that you have to be number one, what you are, and you are brilliant. You have to be 1 yard ahead of your competitor. And when you are 1 yard ahead of your competitor, you will be staying on the top.
Very well said, Dr. Purohit. I perfectly agree with you. Rishi Sunak, as Chancellor of Exchequer, was the person who saved the British economy from tanking down during Boris Johnson's prime ministership, because at that time, UK wanted not to take any anti-COVID measures and wanted, to have the herd immunity develop in the society, meaning thereby no vaccination and, no social distancing, no masking. And Rishi Sunak single-handedly actually saved the economy at that point in time. A little bit of comment about UK's parliamentary system. When Boris Johnson resigned, there were 3 or 4 people who threw their hat in the ring: Rishi Sunak, Liz Truss, Penny Mordaunt, and there was another guy. And actually, if you look at the parliamentary party, Tory parliamentary party, Rishi Sunak had the majority even at that time. He had more MPs supporting him, but the way the Tory leadership chooses the Tory leader is that besides the MPs, some representatives of the party in the community, they also give their votes. So although paradoxically he had the majority in the parliamentary party, Conservative Party, it was the rank and file Tories who did not want a person of Indian origin be the prime minister. And there were a lot of, interviews on media channels and things like that. And in that contest also, he had said that was Liz Truss is advocating unfunded tax cuts and things like that is going to tank the economy. And it took only like 42 days. So the guy was competent even at the first time when he contested. The parliamentary majority in the Tory party recognized that point of view because they are much more aware of where the economy is going. It was the rank and file Tory memberships that actually caused his defeat in the first election. So nevertheless, people realized that he was right when he said that economy will tank down. And in the second round, nobody could contest against him. He was basically elected unopposed because everyone had to withdraw. They knew they were going to lose. Boris Johnson tried and Penny Mordaunt tried, could not muster support, even, more than 26 MPs. So person has solid expertise and people recognize that. And that is what we are celebrating. Damleji wants to come in. Damleji. Floor is yours. Kindly unmute yourself, sir. Damleji.
Yeah, 1 minute. We missed the one of the difficult point about his wife, economical liability. So keeping this thing in mind also. That's all.
Okay, what Danliji is hinting that there was some sort of public quote unquote scandal about Akshata Murthy. In 6 months before that, it was alleged that she's a non-resident British, so she does not have domicile status. She's not paying the British taxes, but she did change her status from non-domicile to domicile. There was further criticism that she's not paying taxes in UK because she's paying taxes in India. She has large inheritance from Infosys, so that is there. It was also said that Rishi Sunak had at one point in time US green card and he has dual loyalties and things like that. But despite all those naysayers, he triumphed. And that is what we need to acknowledge. Bhishmji, you want to come in?
Okay, now, thank you, Ritinji. It was a good discussion and good understanding. Of course, we have read all these stories, enjoyed it. The beauty of our man, Hindu, coming on the stage. But one thing I was thinking about, and it came out to me by way of some people who talked to me, some young people who talked to me. Thus, people from our families, our relationships, I saw them for the first time very proud of themselves. They felt they ignored many things, but now they are talking about those things. So that's what I was saying is that is, of course, he will be the prime minister for his country. We cannot confuse this issue at all because we can watch him, what he is doing, but he is there because he is a citizen of that country and he will perform well. And he has to perform well because Hindu. But the fact that the Hinduism has come out very gloriously, that is good not for our sake, for the sake of hundreds and thousands of kids and growing up children who suddenly felt very strong about it. They were feeling strong about it here and there, but this person who is head of a great country, if they start talking about this, I can tell you many people, many persons, or many people who happen to be Americans, they talk to me and they feel proud of what is going on. This is the impact which will never go away because our man who is proud to be Hindu, who is not scared of being called Hindu, and who has been successful. So everybody is, I think that is one issue which is overwhelming. The rest, of course, we can always say that he will be good or this, that kind of stuff. But I think it's good for Hindus as such in India and elsewhere, and especially new generations. That's what I want to say.
I think that is very, very relevant. So it's the same strand of thinking. And I say that a glass ceiling has been shattered. And this shattering of the glass ceiling will open more doors. Like Professor Madan Goel was saying that, we all celebrated, but our young folks are not so much interested because they had a different point of view. And now I think this will be a source of inspiration, not only to British Hindus or Hindu Americans, but Hindus everywhere, because Hindus are an international community. So wherever Hindus are, it will serve as a sort of, inspiration, source of inspiration. For all you know, a non-Indian Hindu American might become president. I don't want to name her name, but nevertheless, it will be source of inspiration for all Hindus, whether they are of Indian origin or not Indian origin.
That's right.
Any last minute comments? We have 5 minutes actually. We have 5 more minutes. So if anyone wants to jump in, we have time. Some people have not entered into the discussion. If they want to say anything.
Well,
Yeah, I can. Oh, sorry.
okay, I just want to echo what Agnihotriji just said. I think when the news came, the first thing that was noticed in our household was that he was having, this on his arm. That was the first thing they noticed. And this is our youth, the next generation that's coming up. And I think subconsciously, what this image gives to them is very different. It's something that what Agnihotriji was saying, is something that you cannot impart by giving lectures. This is something that comes by observing and feeling inside that this can be done. And I think that is the most important thing about visibility of him. I entirely agree that what he performs and how he performs is entirely up to him and for his nation. We should not have any expectations of him in the sense of, yes, we have expectations of him being ethical and right and in that way. But otherwise, his political decisions should be based on the locality and the situation he is in. And we should not judge him that he did this for India or he did this for that. I personally think that is for him to decide, if so long all his decisions are made ethically and made in the right way. This gives us an immense, pride to have a Hindu visibility like this. That's my comment.
Just to say so,
Harihar.
I appreciate and thank you, Adityanji, for bringing this topic. It's very interesting, and whatever has been discussed, whatever has been said, I agree with everything. And very clearly, you on Vishwaji, Surendra Purohit, and Suresh, everybody has talked about our goal here, just to focus and be proud of that he is a person of Hindu heritage, Indian ancestry, and he's a young gen, I say 42 years young, as a dynamic person who is giving an inspiration for our incoming generation, whosoever are there. So that is the main thing. I'm not comparing to him with India, what he's going to do. That's what we have to see, watch and see. But he has to see what he's going to do for Britain, which is very important, what he's going to do for his country. That is his main accomplishment. Obviously, based upon his Hindu background, Hindu ancestry, Hindu heritage, and Hindu way of discipline, he may impact the younger generation, at least in Britain and elsewhere in the world. So that is very important. So you have talked everything. This is talk, and this is thing of proud. But a lot of people, they get confused. They talk on that issue. What is going to do for India? Oh, that is something different. So since we are not talking that, we are really proud of him being elected as the Prime Minister of a great nation, Great Britain, and he must do something for the Britain and for the Hindu heritage itself. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your talk.
Thank you, Dr. Hari.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we are coming to an end. And I will only say that we celebrate every Hindu's achievement all over the world. We are an international community. We do believe in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So if Hindus in UK are rising to the leadership, we should celebrate that fact. Of course, they are there to take care of the UK. And if Hindus in India are rising, that is also to be celebrated. If Hindu Americans in this country are rising, that is also to be celebrated. So with that note, let's end this particular discussion. Thank you, everyone, for taking some time off. And thank you to Bhishmji for, arranging this discussion. Namaskar.
That was good.
Thank you.
Namaskar, everyone.
Thank you.
Perhaps he will be attending Ram Janmabhoomi temple program as a proud Hindu also.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Namaskar,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Thank
Then you
you.
bought the chat. Very nice.
Namaskar.
Thank you, everyone.